Hello, my name's Mia and I'm with the Museum of Natural and Cultural History at the University of Oregon. The museum is located on Kalapuya Ilihi, the traditional homeland of the Kalapuya people. At the museum, we explore the history of Oregon, both the history of its people as well as the history and science of all the things in the natural environment, like the trees, the forests, the oceans, rocks, animals, plants, volcanoes, all the things that make up our natural environment. I'm here today with Emily, and we're excited that you're joining us for the Power of Plants. Many of you have the Power of Plant activity kit, and we'll be looking at the materials and activities that are in this kit throughout the show. The kit includes a colorful poster and an activity guide that leads you through a variety of fun, hands-on activities to explore plants. Don't worry if you don't have a kit, because many of the activities can be done with materials you can find around your house.
Today, we're going to check out the superheroes that are growing all around us. Yes, plants are superheroes that keep our planet alive. In fact, without plants, animals, including humans, wouldn't be able to survive on Earth.
Plants have special features or characteristics that we like to think of as superpowers. Plants provide the air that we breathe and the food that we eat. Just think all of the foods that we eat that come from plants or from animals that eat plants. What kind of plants do you love to eat? I love raspberries and really soft bread made from wheat. How about you, Emily?
I love to eat kiwis and chocolate. Did you know that plants are living things just like us? But while humans and other animals get our food from the environment, plants have an incredible superpower called photosynthesis that allows them to create their own food. Plants use photosynthesis to turn water and sunlight into sugar that they use to fuel their bodies.
That's pretty cool. Plants can transform sunlight into energy and food. If people could do that, we could sit out in the sun all day and never have to break for lunch. How do plants do it?
Well, look around at all these plants. What color is the most common? Yes, green. Plants are green because of a chemical called chlorophyll that absorbs the sunlight. The green leaves are filled with chlorophyll, and that's where the photosynthesis magic happens. Chlorophyll captures the light energy from the sun. Then the plant uses the light energy plus water and a gas from the air called carbon dioxide to create sugar that it uses for food. When this happens, the plant also produces another gas, oxygen, and releases it into the air.
Yes, animals breathe in oxygen and then we breathe out carbon dioxide gas, which is the gas that plants use to help them do photosynthesis. Now, plants are the opposite. They take in carbon dioxide out of the air and release oxygen back out into the air for us to breathe. It's like they're cleaning the air for us. So I can fill this balloon with carbon dioxide gas and then give it to a plant for it to make some oxygen for me.
You can see for yourself that leaves are breathing out or releasing oxygen. Take a leaf from a living plant and put it in a cup of water. Then place it in the sunlight so that photosynthesis can keep happening. This leaf has been sitting in the cup of water in the sunlight for a few hours, and you can see tiny bubbles all over the leaf. That's oxygen coming out of the leaf.
Thanks, Emily. I can see why plants are so important to keeping everything on the earth alive. Not only do they make their own food, they also provide the food and the oxygen that all the animals need to survive.
And plants also provide habitats for animals, as well as materials for people to make so many different things we use in our everyday lives. Just think about all the different plants and plant products that can be found here at this market.
There are lots of fresh vegetables and fruits, as well as foods made out of plants, like jams, pickles, grains, and yummy fresh baked bread. You can find plants that are meant to be used for their beauty, their wonderful smells, or for how they make us feel, like in soaps and lotions. And plants used to make useful everyday items out of wood, paper, or fibers like in this clothing. Even plants that made the baskets carried by shoppers, the rubber tires on bikes used to get to the market, and even in the benches that are here for us to sit on and take a break. The Attracting Attention activity explores how plants can be used as natural dyes. The kit includes a white bandana, and you can collect colorful flowers, green leaves, and plants in order to crush them into the fabric and see what colors you can transfer onto the bandana. I'll let you discover what it will look like when you're finished. You can also, in your kit, try out the House of Plants scavenger hunt and search for all the things that are plants or made from plants that you can find inside your home. There are so many different ways that plants can be used, and there's so many different kinds of plants. Did you know that there's over 9 million different species of plants, and they grow in all different kinds of environments, from the hot, lush rainforests to the dry deserts to icy cold tundra. Just like everywhere else on Earth, plants are an important resource here in Oregon for things like food and medicine and materials for building shelter or making clothing. Plants have always been an essential resource for people, both today and throughout history. But they're also very important for things like art and culture and tradition. Please welcome our guest, Brenda Brainerd, to share her experience and tribal knowledge about plants.
Cloche Chaco, Nika Yule, Sa Vista, Nika name, Brenda Brainerd, Nika Kopa, Silkus, Kuich, Sushlittle, Malik Talikam, Ina Talikam. Hi everyone, I just greeted you in my indigenous language. I told you good day. It is a beautiful day. I told you my tribal name is Shavesta, but my given name is Brenda Brainerd. I am from a tribe they now call the Coos, Lower Umpqua and Sayusla Indians. I am Millet Coos. That means I come from the south side of the river. And I also told you I am from the Beaver clan. I have the opportunity to share with you some indigenous knowledge about plants. This is my knowledge limited to me. So what is important to know about tribal people and their world around them was the interconnectivity. We didn't have seasons like January, February, March, but we knew when items came fresh. Right now is cedar picking time. When the trilliums bloom and the salmon are at the mouth of the river, cedar is picked. Cedar was so important. It was our houses, it was our clothing, our canoes, our baskets, often our plates. But plants had all kinds of purposes. We used lots of plants for medicines or for teas. This is Kinnickinnick. It's often called Indian tea. It should be called Indian coffee. It has a lot of properties that stimulate you. What's interesting about our plants is how so many parts of the plant were used. I have here a soaproot brush. This is called a poor man's camas. Camas was so important. It was one of the only forms of carbohydrate that we had. So camas was important. But when there wasn't enough camas or people didn't live where camas were, then we used soaproot. Soaproot tastes worse than camas. It's very bland and it's really sticky in your mouth. But the bulb was used to eat. Additionally, the bulb was sticky, so it was made into a handle like glue and dried. The brush is the hair that comes from around the soaproot plant. And the soaproot plant, if you put it on yourself, it stops poison oak. So that one little plant that didn't taste very good is medicine. It's a brush. It's food. It is so important to us. Here we have our rush or our bulrush, a common reed. Those were so important to our plants, so important to our baskets. Here's a rush basket. It's kind of a wobbly, floppy little basket, but you can see how tightly rush could be woven. We lived with our plants. Our plants hung from the ceiling of our houses, and that's how they cured, and that's how they were processed, and that's how they were dried. So we were not separate from our plants. Our plants were around us every day. All of these materials are something we find right here in southwestern Oregon. This is hazel stick, a sweet little berry basket. A very nice willow and rush basket with a little bit of open weave into it. So if you put your little clams or your little mussels in here, the water would run right out. But plants are not just old-timey. Just like Indians, plants are still here today and they are contemporary and we continue to use them. Here's some cedar that I have for a very clever little flapper hat. Also a cedar backpack and a cedar purse. Very contemporary, very new uses, but a continual tie to who we are. We worry about our plants right now. As the climate changes and encroachment by housing developments and stuff, our plants and our picking places become more fragile. It is important that we be good stewards for our plants so that we can always have them available to us for a food resource or for a plant, for a basket resource. I work in a school district and we often say children are the message we send to a time that we will not see. What I love and appreciate about the plants and the culture that's tied to them is these are a message from a time that I cannot see. So in addition to sending my culture and how we use these plants forward, I send forward how to protect them.
Thanks, Brenda. It's so interesting to see how plants are woven into tradition, culture, and everyday life.
Now, for plants to continue to be superheroes for our planet, they need to continue to grow and reproduce. To do that, they need water, light, air, and nutrients.
That's right, Emily. And plants can't get around the same way animals and humans do. They can't move on their own. But they have other special features that help them to do what they need.
And plants have special parts that allow them to do all of those things. They have their roots, stems, leaves, flowers, and fruits and seeds. The roots are the part of the plant that grows underground. They help keep the plant in place and help it move water and nutrients from the soil into the plant. Some examples of roots that we eat are carrots and potatoes. The stem, or trunk if it's a tree, is what helps the plant stay upright. It's super strong. It also helps move those water and nutrients from the soil all the way to the top of the tree. Now, normally, we know that water flows downwards. So how do plants move it upwards? Well, we can see this superpower in action through a little experiment. If you take a light-colored flower, such as these daisies or roses, and place them in colored water overnight, the next day you can see that the plants were able to move the colored water from the bottom of the stems into the petals. Now, a day later, we have a blue rose and blue daisies and pink roses and daisies, all from this incredible superpower.
You can explore this movement of water in plants a little bit more by trying one of the activities out of the activity kit called Plants Defy Gravity. You can put 2 glasses or containers next to each other, one empty and one filled with colored water. In the kit, there's a tea bag made from the colorful hibiscus flower that you can use to color your water. Then you want to take a paper towel, fold that rectangle in half, and place one end in the water and one end in the empty jar. Now you're going to want to let this sit overnight or for at least a few hours and watch what happens to the water.
Now, back to plant parts. Another key part of plants are the leaves. We already talked about how leaves are important for photosynthesis, and leaves come in all different shapes, sizes, and textures.
And then there's the flowers. Flowers are amazing and beautiful too. Flowers have the important job of making sure the plant reproduces by creating seeds that can grow into new plants. Most plants do this through a process called pollination. Pollen is a powdery substance that's created in the flower of a plant. You can see pollen really well on this lily. The pollen is created on the male part of the plant, right here on the tops of these thin, long stalks. And the pollen has to get from the male part of the plant to the female part of the plant right here in the middle. But how do plants get the pollen to move from one plant to another and from one part to another?
Sometimes the wind can blow pollen from one flower to the next, but most pollination happens with the help of animals. We call these animals pollinators. One of the most well-known pollinators is a bee. Bees have furry bodies, and as they travel from flower to flower to gather pollen and nectar to take back to their hives, the pollen sticks to their bodies and then is dropped off at each flower they visit. Bees aren't the only pollinators. There are other insects like butterflies and moths, birds like hummingbirds, and mammals such as fruit bats that help with pollination too.
That's why flowers have the power of attraction. The beautiful colors and the wonderful smells attract pollinators. The animals get food and the plants get to reproduce. It's a win-win situation for all.
You can keep on exploring flowers with the Flower Power activity in the kit. Using the magnifying glass and the flower dissection sheet, take a closer look at flowers by breaking them into pieces and discovering how each part works.
And now we get to my favorite part of the plant, the fruit and the seeds. After pollination, the flower turns into a fruit that contains seeds. Some plants contain multiple seeds like this apple on the outside of the strawberry or inside this kiwi. Other plants have a single seed like the cherry or the avocado. Did you know that tomatoes and cucumbers are fruits also? They form from a flower and have the seeds from a plant. That makes them a fruit. I love eating fruit, even the ones that we actually call vegetables. But I think that seeds are actually the most super plant part of all. A seed is an amazing little package that contains all the information needed to grow into a new plant. A seed has a tiny little baby plant on the inside and all of the nutrients that it needs to get a good start in life, all inside this little protective package. When a seed is in a good place with the right temperature and enough water, then it will start to grow. To have a good chance for survival, a plant needs to have lots of space to grow so that it doesn't have to compete with other plants for water, nutrients, and sunlight. But plants can't move around, so how do they spread themselves out? How do they move their seeds far away? Well, plants have this figured out. They've designed their seeds for travel. Seeds can fly, float, stick, burst, and get eaten. That's right. Plants cover their seeds with delicious fruit on purpose so that they'll end up in the tummies of animals like birds or bears. And then those animals will leave the seeds somewhere else in their droppings. That's when they poop. Some seeds are designed to travel on the outside of an animal. These prickly seeds are designed to attach to an animal's fur or their feathers. This is my dog Cosmo, and do you think that we could get these prickly seed pods to go for a ride on Cosmo's fur? Let's give it a try. Seeds are pretty smart, getting animals to do all that work for them.
Some seeds are designed and shaped to use air or wind to move around. Dandelion seeds are shaped like tiny parachutes that help them float to the ground gracefully. Maple tree seeds are shaped like helicopter propellers that twirl around as they fall, moving further away from their parent tree.
Other seeds are built for a journey by water. Look what happens when I put these golf balls into this bin of water. They sink. But if I put a walnut or a hazelnut into the water, they float along no problem. This coconut is a really big seed and pretty heavy too. Because palm trees grow near water, when their seeds, which are coconuts, fall down out of the plant, they need to be able to float to get to a new location. One of the most amazing ways that a seed can travel is by bursting out of a seed pod. Some plants have seed pods that build up pressure as the plant starts to dry out. Just like the pressure is building inside of this balloon as the air fills it up. What would happen if Emily just kept blowing and blowing up this balloon? It could pop, or it might just fly away with all of that pressure. When a seed pod releases its pressure, the seeds explode out of the plant and fly far away. Imagine if this giant flower had a giant seed pod and it needed to get the seeds far away from the flower so that the new plants had space to grow up. Would you like to see this seed pod explode? How far do you think those seeds will travel from the plant? Let's give it a try. Wow! Look how far those seeds went. Seeds really are super.
That's right, Mia, and you can design your own super seeds as well with the Power of Plants activity kit. Starting with these small pom-poms, try to design seeds that can float, fly, stick, and burst. Using the materials in the kit will help you get started, but you also might find other materials to use in your designs as well.
Throughout the show today, we've shown you the different activities in the Power of Plants activity kit. There's also some bean seeds included and an experiment sheet that will guide you through planning and conducting an experiment where you plant some bean plants and see how changing the environment will change how they grow.
Thanks for joining us to explore the awesome power of plants. It's really easy to forget how important plants are to all living things on Earth. Without them, nothing would survive, not even us. They really are our heroes.
And you can find a way to be a superhero for plants by supporting healthy plants in your community. Volunteer for a neighborhood cleanup project, plant new trees and flowers, especially ones that attract pollinators, start a garden to grow your own vegetables, and take care of the environment by making less waste and recycling more. Plants will surely thank you for it.